It's typically not a lot different than the first step session. However, it's not just the child, therapist, and parent. It's typically within the classroom, as we find that helps the child generalize those skills easier. We're looking at the child getting services basically the entire time they are at school. So for whatever their programming is, if they come 8 to 3 or if they come 8 to 11, whatever their programming is their entire time that they are working towards reaching those goals. The therapists are there to help drive what those goals should be and to supply the teacher and the other educators with the materials and with the knowledge to be able to reach those goals. So we are coming in to kind of continually evaluate that child, see how they are meeting their goals and what other materials or things are needed to help them reach those goals. But those goals are carried out the entire time they are at school. So it may seem like they're getting 20 minutes, but they're typically getting 3 hours or 6 hours or whatever their education is for the day. We do some pull-out sessions as well, and so often we will pull the child out. If we say in their IEP they get 20 minutes a week, that doesn't mean we are typically in the classroom a lot more than 20 minutes a week. So that might be the time we pull them aside and do some things or some different things, but we work in the classrooms frequently. So as Jennifer said, she has the parent work at mealtime for labeling and requesting. We might do the same at snack time or at breakfast time. During circle time, which is your song time and learning your days of the week and learning to identify some things and categorize some things. The therapist will be in there as well during those times, helping that child be successful in those situations, whether it be providing some different technology or helping with some attention to task, following directions, giving some prompts in different ways. But we want them to be successful in that classroom environment. So as we might pull them out to teach them a skill, we want to maintain that skill by moving it into the classroom environment.
Often the visit takes place in the home. The therapist would arrive, discuss with the parents what progress the child's made or what new things they're doing, along with the goals that the therapist and the parent are working on together. Then they would play with the child, do some therapy activities, maybe have the parents hold or do the hands-on handling piece, encourage them, for example, coaching the parent along, have them reach up above midline. Oh, go a little higher. See if you can stabilize her at her pelvis here. So it's very much tag teaming with the parent as far as wanting hands-on participation with the child. And then discussing as a team, the parent and the therapist, how they can integrate that into the family routines during the week. So, you know, during diaper changes, let's really try to, before you pull them up, after you've changed the diaper, practice having her reach above her head as far as she can go. And then here's a way to help stretch that arm a little bit further. And that would be a good example of trying to integrate it into something the parent's already doing with the child throughout the day and throughout the week. So, that they can carry through with that therapy throughout the rest of the week. And then at the end of the session, hopefully there's been discussions if parents have questions and things about what's going on, and the therapist would write a visit note which details what they worked on and what they'd like the parent to continue with throughout the week.
Other challenges might just be if the child is ill on one day, what do you do in that point? Are you able to reschedule it later in the week, or do you need to wait until the next week? So scheduling probably is the biggest.
And then the communication probably is the biggest. You don't spend a whole hour with that family, so you don't know the challenges at home for the child. You don't know if, a sibling's always talking for the child, or you don't know that, the parents have had a really bad week because they've had a lot going on, and so you might see some of those behaviors in the children. So not getting to see that home environment and know exactly all the ins and outs of what goes on at home can sometimes be a challenge to be able to make of them the most successful at school.
I would say it can be a little more challenging because we're all working off-site. So we're not in the same building where we can have conversations face-to-face quite as frequently. But there are opportunities for email and phone calls, and also scheduling co-treating opportunities where we either overlap or come during the same time to then use 2 sets of hands or pick 2 sets of brains to figure out maybe a specific behavior challenge or different sensory programming need to help them with attention span or something of that nature. So there are ways to do it, but it is a little more challenging when you're not working in the same classroom environment or building.
One of the most difficult challenges for me is when I have a family that the parent doesn't really have much of a desire to be involved in my sessions, coming up with creative ways that will engage the parent in the session to engage with the child and help the child.
One of the challenges in the school system is if the child's attendance is poor, it makes it hard to get the services they need provided.
You know, being in someone's home is different than meeting at a neutral location. There are certain cultural and just different sort of challenges and things that people come from where they may or may not be comfortable with you sitting on their floor or sitting at the table with the child or insisting that the child self-feed or those kinds of things. But generally with a sensitive attitude and a positive perseverance with that kind of thing, the families begin to trust you and form a nice relationship, so you're able to work together.